One of the best things about creating a character for Tales of the Valiant has to be the Lineages and Heritages system. I'm not saying it is anything new, other RPGs have been doing it and other books have been doing it for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. All I'm saying is that Kobold Press does it really well. They give us a lot of options for creating characters that are not only fun for like the min-maxing players who want to build ridiculously strong and powerful characters from the get-go, but also the people like me, for example, who really have a specific ID for their character and want their stats and their powers and their abilities to represent exactly what they have in their head. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Tarask and this is your go-to YouTube channel for anything Tales of the Valiant, and today I want to talk about Lineages and Heritages supplement number 1. Yes, the Tales of the Valiant rulebooks haven't been out for long. As a matter of fact, here in Europe only received them like last week, and like the backers have received them and they're just gone up for sale like a couple of weeks ago, and already there is a first supplement with extra lineages and heritages, and I'm really happy with that because I love the lineages and heritages system for Tales of the Valiant, but I just think there's not enough of it in here. So I love us getting a supplement. Now, the reason why I love this is just the versatility. Again, it's not the first RPG that does it, but Kobold Press just has a way of doing it and making it interesting and making it super easy. Now, you can download this for yourself. This PDF sets you back $3.99, and the link is in the description below. I think it's $3.99, could be $4.99, whatever. The link is in the description below. You can download it for yourself. The link is an affiliate link, so you are supporting me while you're doing that. So if you want to support me and get a Google PDF in return, click the link in the description below. If you don't, right? So the Lineages and Heritages supplement goes deeper into more lineages and more heritages. Now, if you do not know what the Lineages and Heritages system, is exactly, it is a system where you, instead of picking a race for your character, you pick a lineage and a heritage. A lineage is basically your blood, where you come from as a physical being. So your lineage could be like dwarf, your lineage could be dragonborn, human, elf, whatever. Maybe something like half-elf or something. That's your lineage, that's your blood. And you get some powers from that. For example, your dark vision, or the fact that you have fangs that you can use to hit people, or whatever, that kind of stuff you get from your lineage. Then the heritage is the part where you come from as a person, what you've been doing before you started adventuring, or before the person who controls your character took over, basically, right? So your heritage could be like you are a nomad, or you lived in the mountains, or you were a carnival artist or something like that, or you come from a big city, or you come from a small village, or from farming, or all that kind of stuff. And that way is really cool for two reasons. First of all, min-maxers can create really powerful stuff with this. I already saw something in this PDF alone that's really, really overpowered, especially if you play with the grid system. But if you combine some of these things with like the basic book, where like the other things are, there's going to be min-max potential, crazy min-max potential. But for me personally, the fact that I like it the most is like, there's nothing wrong with min-maxing. If that's your fun, that's your fun. But my fun is more in like creating characters that also have like flaws and stuff like that. I like taking speed away from my character because they're too old, right? So I sometimes build a human character with 5 less speed just because they're old, right? So I like this from a role-playing perspective. So I kind of really feel that if I create a character with a system like Lineages and Heritages, I have a character that makes sense and had a life before it started that adventure that I am controlling the character in. If that makes any sense at all, that's why I like the Lineages and Heritages system, and I've said it 1,000 times. It really reminds me of a book on drive-thru RPG called An Orc and an Elf Had a Little Baby. There's 3 versions of that, which is basically the same thing, where you can take parts of one race and parts of another race, create your own half race, and create your own person. So it reminds me of that. It's not completely the same, but it reminds me of that. It says it's compatible with the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which is absolutely true. You could create your character before picking your class, so who your person is before they became a fighter, for example. You can pick that and then take like from the vanilla 2014 or 2024, probably even a version of the player's handbook, you can pick a class. So you could perfectly well only have this. Do not play, if you not play Tales of the Valiant, it doesn't matter, you can play this with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and that's why I really like it. So that's in a nutshell what Lineages and Heritages are. Let's just take a look at what they have in this book. This is not like a full review to the letter, like always. It's just me going over a book with some things that I like about it and some things that I saw that could be really dangerous or powerful. Now, the first thing I want to say, the artwork in here by Brian Syme, again, incredible. Brian Syme is doing some art for Hymn of the Dragonflower, which is releasing pretty soon. My personal adventure that I've written with JVC Perry and Dot Steverson from Kobold Press. So yeah, it's I'm really excited to release that, and Brian Syme has been doing some art for that, so I'm really excited to start showing that. So your Dhampir, so a Dhampir are improbable children of vampires and human mothers. The word itself seems to reject the half-living and strange occurrences about blah, blah, blah. So basically they're half vampires, which is cool because vampire stories are often romantic stories where a female, or like a human female, falls in love with a vampire or something like that. So the person who comes from that love story, well, it's not always going to be a love story, right? But let's say it's a love story. So from that love story, could be a Dhampir. I don't know how you pronounce that, but I'm just gonna say Dhampir. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but hey, who cares, right? So that's where you get your powers from. So basically they can live up to 750 years, but they will die. So they are immortal-ish until they die, right? So they live very long because they have that vampire blood, but they're also human, so they're going to die. Their size is medium, so your age, your size is determined by your lineage. Your speed is 30 feet, lineage, dark vision, whether or not you get it, lineage, because that's all born kind of stuff, right? Dark thirst. You have short fangs that serve as a natural weapon. You can bite with your fangs as an unarmed strike, but you can do so only against an incapacitated creature or a creature you have grappled. Your bite deals 1 piercing damage, and your target has blood. And if your target has blood and isn't a construct or undead, you can feed from it as part of your attack. Your feeding deals necrotic damage, charisma modifier, blah, 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 blah. Cool stuff. You can bite like a vampire. Cool stuff. Really roleplay heavy stuff, because they really say it only works against an incapacitated creature or a creature you're grappling. So if you're building somebody especially for that, you could build like a really strong fighter or barbarian that grapples people and then bites them, or you are like a rogue and you just do it when people are asleep, right? Or you don't do it. You just don't do it. You just act like a normal person and you don't go drinking blood all over the place, right? Then there's one of my favorites, the Dryad. I've always loved the Dryad. I've always loved the lore and the artwork behind the Dryads. Dryads are basically creatures who are made from wood, and they have a heart tree. Their heart is a tree that sits in their homeland. So they have a tree somewhere. I don't know, in a Margrave, whatever. There's a tree. If that tree dies, they die. At least that's how I interpret it. But they cannot die. Once they die, once somebody strikes them down, they die-ish. But then in 1d20 days, if I'm not mistaken, their soul goes into that one heart tree, and 1d20 days later, they wake up from that tree, rested and well. It could be on the other side of the world or another plane of existence, but technically they cannot die, right? Of course, if the heart tree dies, they die. So they have a forest heart, natural magic. They can cast druidcraft as a cantrip. They have speak with animals, which also works on plants with that. That kind of stuff is what you can expect from your lineage. So whether you're a half vampire or you're a wood person, a dryad, which dryads are really cool. You should really read about those. There's more information, if I'm not mistaken, in Tales of the Old Margrave about dryads. I think there's even a player option in that for 5th edition. It is in one of those books. I don't know exactly which one, but it is in there. There's dryads in there, and I love it. They have tree step. You can use 15 feet of your movement to step into one living tree within your reach and materialize into an unoccupied space within 5 feet of a second living tree within 60 feet of the first tree. So you can basically, if there's trees around, you can basically teleport, right? Cool stuff. Then there's the Ionic, which I'm not going to talk about because it involves time traveling, and I have decided against time traveling after some bad experiences in my campaigns. Gnolls are in here, for example, which have a really potential powerful build with, especially if you are a monk, or let's say you're just like, I don't know, you're a Gnoll fighter, just a fighter, right? Well, a fighter is also like, you're an old fighter, right? For example, you have the sprinter ability. So they have dark vision, scent prey, all that stuff. Your powerful legs allow you to overrun your prey. When you take the dash action, you gain extra movement equal to double your speed, effectively tripling your movement speed for your turn. So that turn, if you use dash action, you could use your speed 30 feet and then 60 feet again in your dash action, which means you have 90 feet of speed. Which is fast. It's really, really, really fast. But then when you go over, just gonna scroll past the Goblin and the Lizard Folk, for example. Lizard Folk is, by the way, also super cool stuff, right? There's the Heritages, right? The Heritages, Areobat. I'm gonna talk about that in a bit. Junker, Batlander, all that stuff. But then there's one that says, where is it? Is it this one? Shit, no, it's not here. It's here. I know it was stop right. Oh, right here. Swamp Strider. So let's say you play a Gnoll. Was it a Gnoll? It was a Gnoll, right? So you play a Gnoll. You are a Gnoll. Right? And you have the sprinter ability. But you're going to play a Gnoll who grew up. Characters of the Mangrove Regent heritage have been raised among the community of Mangrove Dryads and carry its values and customs. So you are a Gnoll raised by Dryads. All of this is super specific. All of this is super, like, uncommon and rare for it to happen, but your character might as well have that because you can combine everything with everything, right? So you're a Gnoll who was raised by Dryads in the Mangrove. That gives you a Swamp Strider. As an action, you can enable yourself to move across water, mud, and quicksand as though it was solid ground for 1 hour. Meaning that if you have Swamp Strider active, in one turn, you can run 90 feet over water, mud, or quicksand. Like it is solid ground. So not half speed or anything. Just there's a lake, whatever, there's a big river, whatever, doesn't matter. Swamp Strider active, one turn, other side. Give me that rope. I'll put the rope in the other side around the tree, no problem. And gone you are. The Flash, right? That's really, 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 really cool and really powerful. And like, especially in a grid system, in the middle of combat, like, oh, there's all kinds of like, there's water here and whatever. When you're just like ignoring that, basically, which is cool. But now it says that it is a action. So activating this is an action. And of course, your dash is also an action. Meaning that if you do not have Swamp Strider active, you cannot move across water like in one turn. You need to use one turn to use Swamp Strider, and then the next turn to use your dash action. Unless, of course, you're a fighter who has, action search, and you can do 2 actions in one turn. You do action search, Swamp Strider, then your main action, dash action, and you're really fast and cool. So just to give you like an idea of the potential of the power building here, right? So there's much more stuff in here. Wastelander, Sponsored, Rain Creeper, Mud Runner, Junker, Aerobat. Aerobat is really cool. Characters from this heritage were raised among the captains, crew, and engineers of airship fleets. Though this is a young heritage in the grand scheme of the world, blah, 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 blah. So basically, They are people who are used to working in and around airships. Right? So that's where you get your powers from. These are learned powers as a youngster or a person who grew up among airships. These are not the powers you get from being a gnoll or being a dwarf or being an elf. These are powers you get from doing particular things. And an Arabat has something called Descender, which is basically the Feather Fall spell without material components. Once per long rest, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. You have proficiency with either navigator's tools or vehicles, so you're a natural pilot. Windwalker, you have proficiency in either the acrobats or athletics skill. If you have acrobatics, you might be like, maybe you were the person in your fleet that had to go from ship to do like general maintenance and repairs or something like that. I don't know, you were a mechanic and you need to like jump from ship to ship, and maybe they then had a rope and you just walk over that rope from ship to ship, something like that. I don't know, that could be the reason you have Windwalker, right? And you have an actual language. Typical Arabat heritage characters choose Goblin or Gnomish as their language. So yeah, now this could be like there could be like a little bit too much information in here for some people. I want to show two more things. First of all, there's also a Wastelander mutation chart. So if you're a Wastelander, you roll a d6 to randomly determine a mutation in your favor. These are all in your favor, but it's cool. It could be like Tremor Sense, advantage against being poisoned, retractable claws, alien mind. You have advantage on saves against being charmed, and you are resistant to psychic damage. Cool stuff, right? So yeah, Kobold Press is really doing this really, really well, to my opinion. And of course, there's always this. If you want to play somewhat more of a stereotypical character, which I love personally also, you could always look at the Common Heritages by Lineage chart and be like, oh, if I play a gnoll, what are some cool heritages to choose from that makes sense without me having to twist and turn the backstory of my character. Same with like all of them, the Dhampir, the Goblin, the Eonic, the Dryad, the Lizard folk. So the Dryad comes from the Margrove, right? Or from the Grove, or Pines Keon or something like that. The same chart for the ones, the Common Heritages by Lineages, it also is in here. There's also a chart in here for like the dwarves and the elves and all of that stuff, where you can build like a really stereotypical dwarf who comes from the forge, who has been working in the forge his entire life and gets powers from that. They can build weapons or whatever, they can metal, I don't know exactly what they can do, but it makes sense. And that's the most important part about it, is that it all makes sense and that it is all so extremely customizable, but it just works. And it makes, for me personally, it makes character creation insane amounts of fun. It's not just pick a race, pick a class, these are the powers from your race, these are the powers from your class. No, it's pick a race, but build your own race. Either you pick it from a list, dwarf from the forge, which is just dwarf, or you're a dwarf who was raised by humans in a caravan, something like that. Which is fun, which is amazing. If you want to download it for yourself, $3.99 if I'm not mistaken, link in the description below. It's an affiliate link, you can support me by doing so, and until next video, bye bye.